Salvete discipuli, hodie spectatis lēctūram tertiam capitis viginti 3. Participles. Hodie discemus. Primum vocabula capitis viginti 3. Dende grammaticam capitis. Participles. We'll learn the present active participle, the perfect passive participle, or rather review it, the future active participle, and the future passive participle. Primum discemus verba vocabulorum capitis viginti 3. In hoc capita sunt septem verba: educo, gaudeo, ostendo, petto, premo, opprimo, verto. Primum verbum: educo, educare, educavi, educatum. Romulus remusque primum a lupa dende ab agricola faustulo ad ripas fluminis Tiberis educati sunt. Quid significat educo? Ecce gemini Romulus remusque, ecce lupa, ecce ripae fluminis Tiberis. Quid significat educo? Proximum verbum: gaudeo, gaudere, gavissus sum. Dux Romanus, currum triumphalem per vias agens, a populo gaudente salutator. Quid significat gaudeo? Ecce dux Romanus, currum triumphalem per vias agens, ecce populus gaudens. Quid significat gaudeo? Yay! Proximum verbum: ostendo, ostendere, ostendi, ostentum. Homines celebres, vestimenta ostentes, in tapete rubro stant. Quid significat ostendo? Ecce 3 homines celebres, qui in tapete rubro stant, vestimenta ostentes. Quid significat ostendo? Proximum verbum: petto, pettere, petivi, petitum. Artorius ille rex, calicem sanctam, cum equitibus tabulae rotundae petebat. Quid significat petto? Ecce rex Artorius, cum equitibus tabulae rotundae, qui calicem sanctam petebant. Quid significat petto? Proximum verbum: premo, premere, pressi, pressum. Quo modo oleum ex olivis factum est? Olivae in gentibus rotis, gravibus, pressae sunt. Quid significat premo? Ecce olivae, ecce rotae ingentes graves. Quid significat premo? Proximum verbum: opprimo, opprimere, oppressi, oppressum. Vehiculum ingenti saxo oppressum est. Quid significat verbum? Ecce vehiculum, ecce ingens saxum. Quid significat opprimo? Ultimum verbum: verto, vertere, verti, versum. Vehiculum ad dextram cum celeritate vertitor. Quid significat verto? Nunc discemus nomina vocabulorum capitis viginti 3. In hoc capite sunt 8 nomina: arx, dux, equus, hasta, insula, litus, miles, sacerdos. Primum nomen, arx, arcis. Cives hostes fugientes in arcem cucurrerunt, in qua spem salutis habuerunt. Quid significat arx? Proximum nomen, dux, ducis. Duces boni sunt qui ducunt, non qui iubent. Quid significat dux? Ecce dux bonus, qui ducit. Qui ducit duos homines in pictora. Proximum nomen, equus, equi. Ecce equus. Quid significat equus? Est facile. Proximum nomen, hasta, hastae. In hac pictura militem armatum et longam hastam in manu dextra tenentem videmus. Quid significat hasta? Ecce miles, ecce hasta, hasta. Quid significat? Proximum nomen, insula, insulae. Ista insula in formam cordis, facta non est vera. Quid significat insula? Insula est terra in mari. Proximum nomen, litus, litores. Litora civitatis meinensis saepe sunt saxosa, in quibus multae pini ad fluctus maris crescunt. Quid significat litus? Ecce litus, ecce mare, ecce terra. Litus, litus. Okay? Ecce plurima saxa, ecce plurimae pini. Quid significat litus? Proximum nomen, miles, militis. In hac pictura militem armatum et longam hastam in manu dextra tenentem videmus. Quid significat miles? Hasta est tellum, miles est homo in pictura. Ultimum nomen, sacerdos, sacerdotes. Ignis aeternus Romae, numquam extinguendus, a sacerdotibus vestalibus conservatus est. Quid significat sacerdos? Ecce virgines vestales, vel sacerdotes vestales. Nunc discemus alias partes loquendi vocabulorum capitis viginti 3. In hoc capite sunt duo pronomina, aliquis quisquis, et unum adverbium, umquam. Primum pronomen, aliquis, aliquid. Est ne aliquis qui mihi aliquem amandum invenire potest, canebat regina. Quid significat aliquis? Ultimum pronomen, quisquis, quisquid. Quidquid desideras tuum est. Quid significat quisquis? Primum et ultimam adverbium, umquam. Ene patria tua umquam olavisti? Quid significat umquam? Okay. So to introduce the grammar for today, we're going to talk about participles, which means I get to show you this meme that I made based on Family Guy. You may have seen this meme before. But essentially, a participle is a cross between a verb and an adjective, right? So here's me explaining the joke. Noah is looking at the elephant and the penguin. The elephant is a verb, the penguin is an adjective, and they have somehow produced a participle which contains genetic elements of both. Okay, so what do we mean that a participle is a cross between a verb and an adjective? Well, let me explain it with something other than a meme in this next slide. Okay, so a participle grammatically is an adjective. Okay, but it is formed from a verb and it denotes an additional action. Okay. So as an adjective, a participle has gender, case, and number with which to agree with a noun that it modifies, okay, just like any adjective. Except, so for example, let's look at an example of a participle in English, okay? Christina saw a cat walking down the street, okay? So the main verb of this sentence is saw. Christina saw. Christina is the subject, okay? And then a cat is the direct object. Walking is a participle. It is an adjective that describes an additional action in the sentence, the action of walking. Now, this sentence in English is actually ambiguous because because what noun in the sentence is doing the walking? Is it Christina or is it the cat? Is walking describing or agreeing with Christina or the cat? Because English participles don't have, inflected endings that tell you gender, number, or case, whatever that agrees with a noun, we actually have sentences like this, okay, where sometimes a participle can be ambiguous, okay? In Latin, if I were to translate this sentence into Latin, that wouldn't be a problem. The ambiguity goes away because the participle walking, okay, would be an adjective that would agree with one of the nouns in that sentence. So let's look at the first example. Christina felem in via ambulans vidit. Okay, so this means Christina saw a cat walking down the street, or Christina, while she was walking down the street, saw a cat, or Christina saw a cat while she was walking down the street. Okay, so you can translate a participle in Latin as while, a present participle in Latin as while the subject is doing the thing. Okay, or I could say, Christina felem in via ambulantem vidit. Christina saw a cat walking down the street, or Christina saw a cat that was walking down the street. Okay, you see the difference? And notice that this participle, this is a present active participle, okay, it changes depending on whether it is modifying the subject here, Christina, okay, or if it's modifying the direct object here, felem, okay. Notice it has a case ending that looks very much like an accusative singular, just like the cat here, okay. So there you go. So let's review the 4 types of participles that we will learn in this chapter, okay. So participles, because they describe an action, have both tense and voice. They can describe an action happening at a certain time that the subject or whatever noun it's modifying is either doing or having done to it. Okay? So you can translate a present active participle, let's say audiens, as hearing or while hearing, okay? Describing an action that is ongoing at the same time as the verb. The perfect passive, okay, which we touched upon when we talked about the perfect passive tense, auditus, okay, means heard or having been heard. Okay, so an action that happened in the past that the noun received. The future active participle is something like auditorus, meaning about to hear or being about to hear. Okay, it describes a future action, okay, that the noun it modifies is going to do. Finally, the future passive participle, okay, like audiendus, means being about to be heard or just to be heard. Okay, describes a future action that the noun it modifies, okay, will have done to it. Okay, And as you see here, these are all formed from audio, audire, audivi, auditum, to hear. Okay, so they are grammatically adjectives, okay, but they are formed from a verb. Okay, let's go back to this cat. Okay, let's start with the present active participle. Okay, we already saw an example of it with the cat sentence. Now, a present active participle doesn't always mean an action that's happening right now. It means an action, technically it means an action that is happening simultaneously with the main verb. Okay? So, Christina saw a cat walking down the street. Okay? Or Christina sees a cat walking down the street, or Christina will see a cat walking down the street. Okay? So the tense of the main verb, past, present, or future, okay, paired with a present participle means the present participle is actually just going to happen at the same time as this verb does, and doesn't actually mean that it's in the present absolutely. So let's look at how that plays out in Latin. Okay, so Christina felem in via ambulantem videt. Christina saw, in the past, perfect tense here, a cat walking down the street, which means the cat was walking down the street at the same time as Christina saw it, even though it's a present participle, the cat did this in the past, just at the same time as the verb. So again, present active participle means simultaneous action, okay, with the verb. Christina felem in via ambulantem videt. Okay, now the main verb is present. Christina is seeing or sees a cat walking down the street. Okay, so again, simultaneous action with the main verb. Or how about the future? Christina felem in via ambulantem videbit. Christina will see a cat walking down the street. Okay, so again, simultaneous action with the main verb. Okay, even though this is a present participle, this action hasn't happened yet because it's simultaneous with the future tense of the verb. Okay, all right, enough about cats. Let's talk about empresses. Oh, actually, why don't we form this present active participle before we talk about another one? Okay, so a present active participle, as you saw from some of the examples, is formed from a verb. It's specifically formed from the second principal part of any verb. And its case endings will decline as like third declension adjectives, okay, for the most part. Okay, note that the ablative singular actually has the short E rather than a long I, which you would expect of third declension adjectives. So that's one difference. Otherwise, they are I stems, as you see here, and the neuter does the thing with the IA as well. Okay, but otherwise, this is how it looks like. Okay. So as you see here, the first, second, third, IO, and fourth, we take the second principal part of all of those verbs, we cut off the ERE or ARE or IRE, and we add ons, ains, eanes, right? And then it declines like this. So amans, loving, amantis, okay, of a noun loving, amanti, two or four, a verb, a noun loving, amantem, direct object, a noun loving, okay, amante, ablative, a noun loving, etc., etc., okay? So there you go. All right, let's go to the perfect passive participle. And here we're actually in familiar territory. Now again, a perfect passive particle denotes an action that happened in the past, but actually, specifically a previous action to the main verb. Okay, so the perfect passive participle, as we saw with forming the perfect passive tense, it's from the fourth principal part of a verb, and we treat it as a 2-1-2 adjective with the us, endings. Okay, so let's use laudo to praise. Laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatum. Okay, typical first conjugation verb, right? So we take that fourth principal part, laudatum, okay, we turn it into a 2-1-2 adjective, laudatus, laudata, laudatum. Okay, and this means having been praised. Okay, so here's an English sentence. The empress, having been praised, gave the orator a gift. Okay, so note that the main verb is in the past tense. Okay, but the praising happened first. The praising happened previous to the main verb or prior to the main verb. Okay, she won't give the gift until she's praised, right? Okay, so the empress having been praised, or once she was praised, or after being praised, okay, those are all valid translations of this participle, gave the orator a gift. Okay, so in Latin, this first sentence will translate as imperatrix laudata oratori donum dedit. Okay, so the empress, having been praised, okay, having received an action in the past prior to the verb, okay, gave the orator a gift. Okay, and this is the perfect tense. What if we put the main verb in the present tense? The empress, having been praised, gives the orator a gift. Okay, that still makes sense. She was praised before she gives the gift. Okay, so this denotes a previous action to the main verb. This also works in the future. The empress, having been praised, will give a gift to the orator. Okay, so this is a future tense verb, and this is a perfect passive participle, which means you can even use a perfect participle to denote an action that hasn't happened yet. Okay, this sentence is quite likely that she hasn't been praised yet, but it's okay because as long as the praising happens before the main verb. The empress, having been praised, or once she has been praised, she'll give the orator a gift. Okay, see how that makes sense? Okay. And again, these decline as a perfect passive, as a 2-on-2 adjective, so just use your 2-on-2 endings, okay, that you know and love from the second and first declension. Okay. And actually, the rest of these participles are also 2-on-2s. So again, if you know those case endings, you're golden. So let's go to the future active participle. Okay. Now, just as with the perfect participles, technically, what action they denote depends on the main verb. So future participles denote subsequent action to the main verb, which means the main verb happens first and then the action of the participle will happen after. Okay? And it's a 2-on-2 adjective from the fourth principal part. Okay? But instead of just taking the fourth principal part and cutting off the we're actually cutting off the and adding an urus, ura, urum. Okay, so pugnatum, having been fought, okay, will turn into pugnatorus, pugnatora, pugnatorium, okay, meaning being about to fight, okay. So here's a sentence that works. The gladiators about to fight, or being about to fight, or when they were about to fight, saluted the emperor, okay. So note, and in Latin, this is gladiatores pugnatori, imperatorem salutaverunt, okay. So note that this is a perfect verb, okay? So this is the main verb happened in the past, okay? Pugnatori is a future active participle, the gladiators being about to fight, which means, the fact that it's future is just because this hasn't happened yet when the main verb happens, okay? And just as with the other stuff, we can put that main verb into other tenses. Gladiatores pugnatori imperatorem salutant. Okay, the gladiators, being about to fight, salute the emperor. Okay, same idea. Or how about why don't we put the future, the verb in the future? Gladiatores pugnatori imperatorem salutabunt. Okay, the gladiators, being about to fight, okay, will salute the emperor. Okay, so this will happen in the future, and this will happen in the future because this is in the future. But this will happen first, and then this will happen. Okay, subsequent action. All right, last one, future passive participle. Okay, so denotes subsequent action that the main verb receives. Subsequent action to the main verb. Okay, so here we actually go back to the second principal part, and we cut off the re from it. So gerere, okay, means to wage, to manage, etc. You take off that re, and you add nd plus us plus the 2-on-2 ending. So gerendus, gerenda, gerendum. Okay, and these mean about to be waged, etc. Okay, so here's a sentence. We never praise wars about to be waged. Okay, in Latin, bella gerenda numquam laudamus. Okay, so the main verb is in the present tense. Okay, we praise, or we never praise. Okay, we never praise wars about to be waged, or we never praise wars before they are waged. Okay, so in other words, the wars haven't been waged yet, okay, when we do the praising. okay? Because after the war happens, we realize how much war sucks, right? But we're all excited about it before it happens, right? Okay, that's the idea. So this denotes a future action that these wars will receive, okay? That will happen subsequent to the praising. Okay, and again, just like with the other examples, we can switch the tenses of the main verb. Bella garenda numquam. We never praised wars before they were waged or about to be waged, when they were about to be waged. Okay, and then, of course, in the future, Bella garenda numquam about us. We will never praise wars before they are waged or when they are about to be waged. Okay, so there you go. That's it, and we'll have plenty of practice with this, and I'll see you next time. Walai te diskipuli.